And now, broadcasting from deep behind enemy lines in the occupied territory of the Socialist Republic of California, your host, former California State Assemblyman and Governor candidate, Tim Donnelly.
Hey, welcome back to the Radio Free California Network, where our goal is very simple: to inform, educate, and, of course, engage. And we're going to make that fun today. We're going to have an hour of gun talk starting at the bottom of the hour, so 3:35. Make sure you record this number, plug it into your phone, because if you have any questions about guns, we're going to have a good friend of mine, former Marine Sergeant Rich Cabral, who is probably forgotten more about the Second Amendment, more about guns than most experts ever know in a lifetime. 323-746-TALK is our number. And by the way, TimDonnellyShow.com is our website. You can always go there and click on previous shows and find out what happened, what you missed. You missed a great show yesterday. We were talking, a good deal of the show about guns and Donald Trump. Why not? You know what? It's a holiday week. We're in between Christmas and New Year's. And you know, I know a lot of you are not out there working. You're relaxing. You maybe you are on your way to Turner's at this very moment, or you are on your way to the range, or you're on your way to doing something fun. I don't know. Some people consider golf fun. Or maybe you're engaging in that American pastime that is always difficult for me to understand, especially after Christmas: shopping, more shopping. I couldn't believe it. I was going to, my wife bought me a knife, and I don't often return things, but it was just not me. It's way too small. It's way too pretty. I like a big, ugly, mean knife, and I knew the one that I wanted, and it was the exact same price. But as I'm driving out there the day after Christmas, I could not believe the lines at the malls. And maybe it's just me. Maybe it's because I never go out the day after Christmas unless it's to do something fun, not go to a shopping mall. I mean, I thought we already served our sentence previously to Christmas Day. But at any rate, and of course, the store is sold out of all the good knives, and I have to wait. But I can handle that. But we want to be here as a resource for you if you have questions about something you bought. Maybe you got a gun for Christmas. Maybe you just bought one in the aftermath, in the post-San Bernardino massacre world that we are now living in, and you want to know something about it, and you're maybe embarrassed to ask. Well, you can ask former Marine Sergeant Rich Cabral on this show. So 323-746-TALK. Make sure you've got that number. He'll be coming up here a little bit later on. And we're going to keep him for a full hour so that we can really get into the issues. But right now, I got to take you into the political world because it's just too much. The hypocrisy of Hillary Clinton has gone so far that there is no stopping. And yet somehow even the Washington Post, and if you don't know the difference between the Washington Post and the Washington Times, the Washington Times is a conservative paper. The Washington Post is a liberal leftist paper. The two couldn't be any different. And yet, this is what Ruth Marcus wrote in the Washington Post. This is shocking. Donald Trump is crude and vulgar. Okay, surprise, surprise. He's every ist in the book. Racist, sexist, narcissist. That's just for starters. His diss about Hillary Clinton getting schlonged in the 2008 campaign and the accompanying tirade about her disgusting bathroom break during the debate were weird and juvenile. But he has a point about Clinton playing the woman's card and about male behavior that's more concerning than her husband's. Was there a sexist undertone to Trump's schlonged comment, I guess, since we know which Democrat candidate does and doesn't have one. Still, as sexism goes, this feels awfully mild. I think he has to answer for what he says, and I assume that others will make the larger point about his language. Hillary Clinton told the Des Moines Register. Well, it's not the first time he's demonstrated a penchant for sexism. Well, Bill Clinton has a penchant for something. He had a successful presidency, but with an ugly blot. Sexism isn't the precise word for his predatory behavior toward women or his inexcusable relationship with a 22-year-old intern. Yet in the larger scheme of things, Bill Clinton's conduct toward women is far worse than any of the offensive things Trump has said. Trump has smeared women because of their looks. Clinton has preyed on them. And in the workplace setting where he was by far the superior, that is an uncomfortable truth for Clinton supporters everywhere, but it is unavoidably true. That by a Washington Post columnist, Ruth Marcus. And see, this is the kind of stuff that I believe ultimately is going to bring down Hillary Clinton. And I don't mean just in and of itself because somebody writes a newspaper article. But if you have one liberal columnist saying this, if you have one Marxist progressive who's saying, hey, wait a minute, you have 100,000 who are thinking it. And that could be the difference between them voting for Hillary and them voting for Bernie Sanders. And if they're voting for Bernie Sanders and Bernie Sanders loses the primary, and Hillary is definitely not, nobody believes Hillary's going to lose the primary. Everybody believes, all of the pundits believe she's going to make it, become the Democrat nominee. But there's a lot of Bernie Sanders supporters who have said that if Bernie loses, they ain't voting for Hillary. And it's going to take some convincing to get them on board with her, but a lot of them said they're going for Trump. So it's interesting. And you know what it is? It's sort of this outside-in political paradigm that we're dealing with. And it's something we haven't seen in a long time. So experts are having trouble correctly analyzing it. But in the case of Hillary Clinton, and by the way, I don't know if you heard this comment that she made. Let me find this tweet that I had to screenshot because it was so priceless. Oh, why is it so hard to find stuff when you need it? Well, that's so frustrating. She said to all sexual assault victims everywhere, you have a right to be heard and a right to be believed. And we're with you. Oh, that's right. As long as you're not accusing my husband of rape. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to play you a clip that you will not believe.
I want you to listen to Juanita Broderick herself on this radio show a few weeks ago, telling her story. First, how she was found in the hotel room.
Things did get out of hand. I was in a state of shock afterwards. And I know my nurse came back to the room to check on me because she hadn't heard from me. And the mid-morning break, she came up, and it was devastating to her and me to find me in the condition that I was in. And we really did not know what to do. We sat and talked, and she got ice for my mouth.
Ice for your lip because he bit your lip.
Yeah, oh yeah. It was 4 times the size it should be. And she got ice for me, and then we decided then I just wanted to go home. I just wanted to get out of there, which we did.
I told you before, and I don't want to do this in any way, shape, or form to dwell on the actual details, so we're not going to do that. I do want to read an NBC account, and I'm not going to ask you to recount any of this, but because I know how painful it is for you, Juanita Broderick, who we are speaking to right now, the way that this man, the Attorney General, the top law enforcer of Arkansas, goes up to her room and suddenly kisses you, you recounted, and that you pushed Clinton away, according to NBC News, and said that you were married, you were not interested, he persisted. I just want to dwell for a minute on after he kissed, on just the biting of the lip. That to me is sexual aggressor. Did you, when he bit the lip, did you know right away that this was unfortunately not going to end?
In trouble.
Yeah.
And when I asked him to leave, it escalated.
So there, Juanita Broderick was recounting some of what happened. But actually, she told us, and this was amazing, that it didn't end there. Like so many other victims of rape and of sexual assault, she says that she was in denial. Now, if you remember, actually, like other of Bill's victims, she fits a certain profile. She was kind of like a Bill Clinton groupie. She was a Bill Clinton supporter. And so actually, she attended, even though she was allegedly raped by Bill, she says she was in denial. She attended a few weeks later a fundraiser at the home of a local dentist. And it's at this fundraiser, she said, she talked about on this radio show, how actually Hillary approached her, and apparently she believes Hillary threatened her or intimidated her into silence. Here's Juanita telling that story. Small fundraiser in the home of a dentist that you knew, and that actually Bill and Hillary Clinton were coming, of course, to the fundraiser, seeing as though it was for Bill Clinton's campaign. You said that actually there was a friend of yours who picked Bill and Hillary up at the airport, local airport, to drive them to the private home of this dentist for the fundraiser. You were inside, and that, well, tell us. Apparently, the man who drove the two, a friend of yours, said that Bill and Hillary were talking about you on the way from the airport. They singled you out, and Hillary wanted to meet you. Is that correct?
Right. And when they first got to Dr. Criswell's home, I had told the ladies then I had some responsibilities regarding who was going to be there and who we were going to give fundraising cards to and who we were going to talk to. And so I had told two other ladies at the time, Norma and Jean, that if they would just take these cards and take care of them for me, I just was going to make an appearance and leave before they got into the room. Well, Chuck came over to me, the one who had driven them from the airport, and said, well, the whole conversation was about you coming from the airport, mostly from Mrs. Clinton. And so then, about that time, I see them coming through the kitchen area, and some people there are pointing to me. He goes one direction, and she comes directly to me. And then panic started to set in with me. I thought, oh, my God, what do I do now? So she came over to me and said, it's so nice to meet you, and all of the niceties that she was trying to say at the time, and said, I just want you to know how much that Bill and I appreciate the things you do for him. And I just stood there, Aaron. I was sort of, you might say, shell-shocked. And she said, do you understand everything you do? She tried to take a hold of my hand, and I left. I told the girls, I said, I can't take this. I'm leaving. So I immediately left.
So you took that, as I would too if I were in your situation, you took that as, I don't know, a threat almost, intimidating, or what? Or just thanking you for your silence, or both?
No, what really went through my mind at that time is she knows.
She knew.
She knew, she's covering it up, and she expects me to do the very same thing. Well, at that time, in 1978, when we left Little Rock, I felt responsible. I don't know if you know the mentality of women and men at that time, but me letting him come to my room, I accepted full blame.
You,
I thought,
you,
well,
the
this is
rape
your
victim.
fault, and you have to bear this. There's nothing you can do. He's the Attorney General, and this is your fault.
Now, those are some pretty powerful words from Juanita Broderick over there. And the story doesn't end. It continues.
It's hard. That was a great interview by Aaron Klein. He does a weekend show out of, I believe, Tel Aviv. Look, Juanita Broderick, I want to be perfectly clear on who she is. She was a Clinton campaign fundraiser. She was a Clinton supporter. She was working on the Clinton campaign as an enthusiastic volunteer, as a respected woman within the community, which is why she was working on the campaign. He invited her to a room. Not only did he rape her, but he bit her lip. And when I say, I don't say allegedly, because she actually alleged and told the truth on an NBC interview, and NBC refused. They utterly, absolutely refused to air this during the Clinton impeachment trial, which was not about Clinton raping women. It was about other things, obviously, about him lying before Congress and all that other stuff, and lying about Monica and whatnot. But this is going to become a central focus, or should be, or would be, if Hillary Clinton was a Republican, and she was the first woman Republican running for president, and was the nominee, and Bill Clinton was her husband. This would be the number one story every night forever. But see, Hillary Clinton's campaign, the other day, she tweeted out to every survivor of, let me speak, to every survivor of sexual assault: you have the right to be heard. You have the right to be believed. We're with you, Hillary. She even signed it. This is the same woman that went up to Juanita Broderick, knowing that she was raped, knowing that her husband had done it, knowing that she had been silent about it, and thanking her for her silence for the good of the nation. Saying, you don't have the right to be heard. You don't have the right to be believed. You have the right to be silenced. And she has reputedly, and there are many books written about this, written many cases by people who are not Republicans, by the way. And almost every one of his accusers, are Democrats. So that, if Hillary's going to make the woman card and sexual assault the centerpiece of her campaign, she might want to think again. Because Bill Clinton may not be the golden boy he once was when it comes to wooing the voters. He may wind up being her Achilles heel. Food for thought. We don't have time. I've got an NBC clip where they actually say that his affair with Monica is alleged, but we'll play that a little bit later on in the show because it's too priceless to miss out. Coming up, we're going to have Michelle Moons. We're going to go back and get into the nitty-gritty of the situation. I'm sorry, Michelle Moons is coming up at 5 o'clock. Excuse me. We're going to get into guns for an hour. Fun first. We're going to have dessert first and hard work later, but we got Michelle Moons coming up at 5, and we're going to be getting into the nitty-gritty of the San Bernardino Mosque and the connection to the terrorists. Whatever you do, don't touch that dial. Hey, welcome back to the Radio Free California Network. I am Tim Donnelly, your host, former California State Assemblyman and radio governor here in the state of California. You might wish, after hearing about all the new gun laws that have been passed, and we'll be covering that tomorrow on this show, just to kind of warn you and refresh your memory, and I know it'll be kind of like reliving a nightmare. But for right now, we are going to go to the phones, to the Radio Free California Newsmaker line, and see if we can pick up Rich Cabral. Rich, is that you?
Do you copy?
Rich Cabral is a former Marine sergeant. He is one of the foremost, most knowledgeable people I know on the Second Amendment. As I said in my intro, he's probably forgotten more than most people know about the Second Amendment, especially so-called experts. And this is one of those topics that is near and dear to my heart. And I know many of you, since, hey, we're living in a post San Bernardino climate. And it is one of those, it's a seminal moment. I don't know what else to say. I'm going to go back to the phone and see if I can pick up Rich again. We were having a little bit of trouble. Rich, is that you?
Tim, this is Richard. Do you copy?
Hey, Richard, I got you loud and clear. You're good.
I'm on my satellite phone now.
Oh, you could be calling from the moon then, I guess. All right. Well, we got a little bit of feedback there, but anyway, Rich, I wanted to bring you on to talk about guns in particular, and you're one of those people that I was starting to say, you know more about guns and how they work and what's a good gun, what's a bad gun, where you can get value for your money. And there's a lot of people right now that either bought their first gun or they're thinking about it. So what would your advice be to them? Rich? Yeah, you're not coming in on this phone. We'll have to pick him up on. Call me back from a different line, Rich. Oh, that's frustrating. Very. Here I'm ready to talk about my favorite subject, and the phone doesn't work properly. So we'll just wait till we can get Rich on a good solid line. But look, if, as I said yesterday, if you are a person who is thinking about buying a gun, one of the biggest problems confronting you is, what do I do? Where do I go? Who do I talk to? Because as soon as you buy a gun and then you go show it off to all your friends, you know what the first thing they're going to say? Well, you should have bought this, and geez, you paid too much, and what you really need is this, and you get a deluge of advice. So I thought, given that this is sort of a holiday week, given that a lot of you may actually be contemplating it, because some, if you're on Turner's mailing list, which you should be, by the way, go to turners.com and sign up. There's a lot of guns that are going off the California list. They'll never be available for purchase again as a new firearm at an FFL dealer in California. So you have to buy them before Thursday, at least initiate the process. And so I believe that there's a lot of you who are thinking about this. And if you are among the many who are thinking about buying a new gun, then you're going to want to have somebody that you can ask some questions to. So when we get Rich back, we will bring him on the we'll bring him on the line and let him answer your questions. Meanwhile, while we're working on that, if we could run, I want to get to that Hillary clip, the NBC one, but play the NBC clip, and then what we're going to do is play the Bill Clinton's actual comments.
All right, Hallie Jackson, you just teed up Mr. Trump quite well. He's on the phone. Mr. Trump, good morning. Good to talk to you as always.
Good morning.
Let me start with this latest tweet that you have talking about Bill Clinton. You said that he had failed badly in the 2008 campaign when he acted as a surrogate for his wife. And you added he was called a racist. I know you choose your words carefully. Are you yourself calling him a racist?
No, he was called that by the Obama campaign. He was called it loud and clear. He was extremely insulted.
Well, why did you put it in your tweet if you don't believe it?
They said it. I didn't say it.
I know, but you circulated it to 5.4 million followers, so that would suggest you approve of it.
All I said was what they said, Savannah. That's what they said. They called him a racist. I don't believe he is a racist, if you want to know the truth, but they called him a racist. It was a miserable campaign. He did very poorly. And they're bringing him out again. He's being wheeled out, and we're going to see what happens. But frankly, he did very, very poorly. He was not good for her. And obviously, she lost to Obama, and that was the end of that. But they brought him out before.
You also said that he has, and this is a different tweet, quote, a terrible record of women abuse. And I wondered if you could get specific about that. What do you mean? What are you referring to in particular?
Well, if you look at the different situations, of course, we can name many of them. I can get you a list, and I'll have it sent to your office in 2 seconds. But there was certainly a lot of abuse of women. And you look at whether it's Monica Lewinsky or Paula Jones or many of them, and that certainly will be fair game. Certainly if they play the woman's card with respect to me, that will be fair game.
You mentioned Monica Lewinsky. Are you saying an alleged extramarital affair that, of course, he has now admitted, is that fair game in a campaign?
Alleged. Yeah, is that alleged? I don't think that's alleged.
No, he's admitted it. He's admitted it.
If he's admitted it, you don't have to use the word alleged.
Right, which is right, exactly. So are you saying an extramarital affair by Bill Clinton is fair game and something that you think should be in the campaign?
I'm not saying. What I'm saying is very simple. If she is going to play the woman card, because I'll do more for women than Hillary Clinton is going to do for women, including the safety of our country, which is good for everybody. But if she's going to play, which she started about a week ago, talking about, he mentioned, and, the whole thing, playing up the women's card very, very strongly. And if she's going to play that game, and if he's going to be out there campaigning, then he's certainly fair game. And I think just about everybody agrees with me on that. This is a person who, he's going to be out, and I like the fact that he's campaigning for her. He failed in 2008. He failed really badly. He frankly did a very poor job in campaigning, if you want to know the truth. And perhaps he'll do well or perhaps he'll do poorly. But if she's going to play the women card, it's all fair game.
You mentioned the Monica Lewinsky issue. In 2008 on CNN, you called the effort to impeach Bill Clinton for that nonsense and totally unimportant. Do you still feel that way, or have you had a change of heart?
Well, I tell this to everybody. I got along as I'm dubbed as a world-class businessman, which, frankly, that's what I am. And I got along with everybody. I got along with the Clintons. I got along with the Republicans, the Democrats, the liberals, the conservatives. That was my obligation. As a businessman, I had to get along with everybody, and I'll be able to do that as president. I'll be able to bring people together. But I got along with the Clintons, and I got along with everybody virtually, because that was when I needed approvals, when I needed something from Washington. I always got what I wanted, and that's because I was able to get along with everybody. So
you got along, but did you secretly not feel that way about them?
No, let me just tell you. So when I was a businessman, I had an obligation to myself, my family, my company, to get along with everybody, and I did that probably better than most.
All right, Mr. Trump, I'm out of time. We'll have to leave it there, but hope to talk to you again soon. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much.
But I want to say one thing to the American people. I want you to listen to me. I'm going to say this again. I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Miss Lewinsky. I never told anybody to lie, not a single time, never. These allegations are false, and I need to go back to work for the American people. Thank
you. Wouldn't it have been nice if he had never done that in the first place? And wouldn't it be nice if his wife wasn't trying to take away our gun rights? I think we've got Rich back. Rich, can you hear me now?
I copy you good now. I guess we had a bad connection.
Okay.
My apologies for the humping and bumping.
No. Don't even worry about it. Hey, what we're going to do, Rich, we're going to take a break because we got to take a break. So let's do that now. Put you on hold. And when we come back, we're going to have former Marine Sergeant Rich Cabral to answer your questions. And we're going to talk about everything you wanted to know about guns that we can fit into now 45 minutes. Stay tuned.
Yeah.
Hey, welcome back to the show. We're talking guns with former Marine Sergeant Rich Cabral. Rich, look, there's a lot of people that are seriously considering buying a gun or have bought a gun. They don't know what to do with it. They know they need it, but they're not quite sure. The whole process is new to them, but they know someone, a friend, a neighbor, or a friend of a friend who was killed in the San Bernardino massacre. And they just want to be prepared. So for people that haven't yet bought a gun, where do they start?
Well, as you know, Tim, do you copy okay?
Yeah, you sound great. You're coming through loud and clear.
Okay. We lost a friend up there on the mountain ourselves, and left 6 kids. And people are now starting to, even those who never thought about owning a gun or against guns have now taken a turn. And it's obvious that, protection is key because, let's face it, by the time the police department gets there and all that, the only thing they're going to be doing is paperwork and putting you in a body bag. So my philosophy has always been better be tried by 12 than carried by 6. That said, we do a lot of, the club I belong to does a lot of classes. And most of them, basically all of them, are free. But the trouble is that they're months away. So right now, let's say the person doesn't know anything about a gun. And let's start with the women. The first thing that they're going to have to do when they go look at a gun, and going to Turner's, that's where I buy, that's where you buy.
They support this show, so we always want to send everybody to Turner's.
Well,
I'm actually on the break. I'm shopping online. I'm searching for stuff on the break.
Well, anyway, let's say that we've got a woman that's going to want to buy a handgun. Well, there's 2 things they got to remember. Let's start with the women or a girl. Let's say you have to be 21, of course, in California. They're going to go look at guns, and it's like looking for a purse. Women know what they like in a purse. They'll pick up a half a dozen of them and settle for the one that they like the best. And it's because it's either the color, the fit, the carry, all these things apply to a handgun. So I never recommend a semi-auto pistol for a woman. Now, there's going to be a lot of instructors and a lot of guys are going to disagree with me in this, but I really don't care what they think. They want to get something that's going to be the original point and click. A .38 revolver, preferably hammerless. Smith & Wesson makes one. It's called a Lady Smith. And usually they come in a .38 caliber, which would be the maximum for a woman, or a .22. Everybody says, well, geez, can you kill anybody with .22s? Well, I got to tell you, over the last 10 years, they've got ammunition that is extremely deadly. Winchester makes one that I like for home defense, and it's called a power point. It's a hollow point, but it's called a power point. Travels at a good velocity, delivers a lot of energy. But let's say
but before we go any further on that, I got to stop you here. So you're saying that you don't recommend that women ever own a semi-automatic? I mean, I know a lot of women that shoot Glocks and 9mm and everything.
Yeah, but I said their first gun. It's like getting your driver's license. All right? Their first gun should always be a revolver. And the reason is, the big difference is they got to be strong enough to pull a slide back on a 9mm. And a lot of women can't pull a slide back. Now, there's a technique to doing that even if you're not very strong. But a revolver doesn't have a safety. It doesn't have a lot of things on it, all the bells that they have to. They got to remember when you're stressed out, the adrenaline is flowing and a woman is under stress, especially by an assailant. They're not going to be thinking about turning safety. They're going to point it and nothing's going to happen. A revolver will always fire. Always. You point it, you squeeze, it's like a camera. Now, if a woman is fairly confident of herself, then I recommend a Glock 9mm. To me, the Glock is probably superior to a lot of the other guns because of the way the safety is designed into the trigger. I love the Glock. I am a 1911 guy, but Glocks are great guns. That would be it's a tie with me, depending on what you're going to do with it. But
yeah, I consider Glocks to be like Ohio State and 1911s to be like Michigan.
Yeah,
and I'm always on the side of the Wolverines. The 1911 to me, as a matter of fact, I was over at your shop talking to you about stuff today and looking at and just discussing the ins and outs of 1911s, which we could have talked about for 3 hours. But that is really, to me, your basic semi-auto that is virtually indestructible. And if I were in your shoes and recommending to men for their first gun, it would be a 1911. It wouldn't be a Glock or a 9mm or any of this other stuff. I like the 45 1911. That's mine.
And they come compact too. There is an advantage to a Glock, and the big advantage is that if you're going to keep one in the tube, in other words, if you're going to keep the thing loaded with one in the chamber, that means that when you draw, you better not have your finger on that trigger because it can go off. Now, a 1911 has a couple of safeties. It has one that you squeeze that allows the gun to fire. So in case you drop the 1911 with the main safety off, it's not going to fire. You have to compress the trigger. I mean, the handle.
Right.
There's a safety lever in the back, right? And then there's also the other mechanical safety that you engage and disengage with your left thumb. But that said,
hold on to that thought right there. Former Marine Sergeant Rich Cabral. We're talking guns. We want to take your calls when we come back. 323-746-TALK. So be ready to dial when you hear the music coming back. You have found your way to the Radio Free California Network. I am your host, Tim Donnelly, former California State Assemblyman and radio governor here in the state of California. And we're talking about one of my favorite subjects. That is, of course, guns, the Second Amendment. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. We've got former Marine Sergeant Rich Cabral on the line, and we're taking your calls. 323-746-TALK. Welcome back to the show, Rich.
Oh, thank you for having me, Tim. I appreciate it. I love the subject.
Absolutely. I'm going to pick up a caller here and see if you can answer their question. Hey, give me your first name and city, then you can pose your question. It's you. You're live.
Hello. Is it?
Yes, you are live on air. What?
Okay. Okay. Hey, my name is John. I live in Hesperia.
Hey, John.
And,
welcome to the show.
I come to. Thank you very much. I listen to your show all the time, and I really love it. But I got a little problem. I don't know if it is a problem or not. I'm in Colorado visiting my son for Christmas, and for Christmas he gave me a 12-gauge shotgun. In Colorado here. Now I got to go back to California. Is there a problem with me taking that on the airplane and bringing it home?
No, what you got to do when you go to check it in, make sure it's in the original. Do you have the original box?
Yeah, I believe I do have the original box. Yeah.
Okay, what you're gonna you're gonna have to do two things. One is you're gonna check it in curbside. It's really not an issue if you're not carrying it inside the cabin. If you check,
I don't recommend that.
And it's yeah. And if you check it in and declare it when you walk in, there's really no problem leaving an airport if you declare everything. And it'd be a good idea. What is it? A Mossberg?
Yes, it is. It's a Mossberg Model 500.
Okay, when you carry it, disassemble the barrel, unscrew it, and that way when you open the box, cause they're gonna want to look at it. Make sure you're not taking it something pretty nasty, and it'll be in two pieces. So when they look at it, if anybody knows anything, they're going to know that it's 2 pieces. They'll probably call one of the TSA agents over, which probably know less about guns and driving their car, and they're going to declare it.
But like, hey, yeah. Okay.
Now, I do recommend that you write down the serial number and carry it in your wallet. And that way, when you go up there, you're prepared to show them this is the serial number, this is the firearm, and they may not want to read it, but you make it a point, you make it a mission to point out this is the serial number. I don't care if it's the woman checking you in or whatever it is. When they open it, you make sure that everybody looks at that serial number.
Okay.
Okay? And there shouldn't be an issue.
Yes.
Now, California, if you were in California, that may become a different problem. But to leave a free state versus, the PRK, it's a little different. Yeah. So I've never had an issue, and I've checked guns in for a long time. So I would strongly recommend that you do it that way.
Okay, good deal. That sounds good.
All right.
See what happens.
Well, thanks for the call, and thanks.
Better about it. Yeah.
Thanks for listening from Colorado.
You're welcome.
All right.
Yes, okay.
We'll continue to take your calls. Look, surprise, surprise. We got. I don't even know what to say about a question about carrying a gun into the airport. Mine was a mistake. It was certainly not the way that Rich is saying, because I had forgotten it was in my bag, and believe me, that could be a big problem. But you can. Most people don't even know that. It's like the media's created all these myths. And Rich, thanks for clarifying that, because there may be a lot of people coming home for Christmas that have forgotten or didn't even know what the rules are. So that's a good one. But let's get back to, so you're trying to figure out what's the right gun for you. You've said for women you would recommend, if they've never owned a gun, get a revolver, 38, Lady Smith, no hammer, because all you do is point and click. As soon as you pull that trigger, it's going to fire.
That is correct, and that's the reason that I like revolvers. Now, the average male is not going to like a revolver. We're hung up on marketing and sales and all these badass-looking guns. And
right, we like cool stuff. Come on.
Cool, yeah, exactly. But we're not talking about cool here. We're talking about staying alive and protecting yourself. And if a woman, and I honestly believe, we teach probably 80 women a year, and the most timid ones that come in there into the classes are normally the ones that are terrified. And once I walk them through the whole process without even shooting a gun, when they go to the firing line to shoot it, they turn out to be the best shots. And then after a few more rounds, they get a little glassy-eyed, and they said, I'm going to buy one, but what can I buy next? It's like shopping for a purse. Until they feel that thing going up, because you got to remember, an explosion going off in front of your face, holding it in your hand, that's not a natural act. It's not something that is natural to us. It's something that's going to be really unnatural. So when it happens, it, to some degree, it scares them. But once they see they can control it, look out, you've got a different person here.
Yeah, and
that is what I... Go ahead, Tim.
And look, everybody that is listening understands that if you're going to buy a firearm, you need to learn how to use it. We told you yesterday about an event going on in the high desert on January 16th, where for $25 an hour you can get one-on-one NRA certified training, and I highly recommend that you do that. And by the way, that's co-sponsored by Turner's as well. And, this is a great opportunity. We're going to see if we can get anything going up here in the mountains, maybe when the snow clears a little bit, and try and do something similar for people that are living in the San Bernardino Mountains. But, Rich, so here's the thing. If you go down to a store to buy a gun, how do you try it out? I mean,
well, one of the Turner's doesn't have that capability, but without sending them away from Turner's, There is stores. There's one in Riverside. All they got to do is, I'm not going to endorse anybody because I'm a Turner's guy, but all they got to do is go to any indoor range sells guns. So most of them allow you to test fire. You'll have to pay for the ammunition and maybe even rent a gun. But if they're into selling guns, most of the time you pay for the ammo and you get to go into the firing range and actually test them. And another thing people have to remember, comparing while we're talking about actually shooting a gun, if they decide they're going to go out in the desert and learn by themselves, I don't recommend that. But we have a lot of people that do that. And you get around the safety part of it. No, you don't learn the safety part of it, and then you become a little dangerous with this thing.
Yeah, I wouldn't be recommending that because look, when you go to a range like there's one up in the mountains, the Arrowhead Fish and Game. There's the Apple Valley Gun Club. There's all these different places where you can go. There's always going to be somebody there that knows way more than you do. And if you're not able to make the event on the 16th, where you could actually plan to be trained by somebody with your particular firearm, which I do recommend, especially if you haven't had any real experience with it. But here's another question. Actually, I want to take a quick break, and when we come back, I want to get into some questions that were raised yesterday on the show about ARs and ammunition. Talking guns with former Marine Sergeant Rich Cabral, taking your calls when we come back. Hey, if you're just tuning in, we are talking guns with former Marine Sergeant Rich Cabral, and we're taking your calls. 323-746-TALK. That's 323-746-8255. If you are driving, you can reach us at timdonnellyshow.com. You can connect with us. Email, Facebook, Twitter, and even that ancient telephonic device that you're texting on that Alexander Graham Bell invented so many years ago. Rich, before the break, we were talking about, going out and getting your first gun, but what if you're already somewhat experienced, you're ready to get your second gun? Because you can't just have one gun, right? You've got to have something for carry and then something for home defense. And what else do you need?
Well, I recommend three. We have these matches. They're called 3-gun matches. And the reason they pursue the 3-gun thing is because, first of all, there's 3 guns that everybody should really own. One of them would be a pistol, whatever your choice may be, a rifle with a short, like my company's called shortrifles.com. We manufacture short rifles, but we only manufacture in a 308, and they're kind of a high-end gun. But what you want is something that's got a collapsible stock. Remember to make sure you check all your local and state laws, because state law is different from federal law when it comes to stocks that collapse. Anyway, a rifle and a shotgun. Those 3 guns, pistol, rifle, shotgun. Now, you need to understand how they function. You need how to shoot them. And, of course, you're going to need as much ammunition as you can afford to buy.
Well, yesterday we had a question come up on ARs. And, everybody's familiar to some extent with the 223 round. What is the difference between a 223 and a 5.56 by 45 or something like that?
Okay. Let's talk. We're going to stay with the AR-15 rifle, okay? In semi-automatic form. They all shoot. Remington invented this cartridge many years ago, long before the AR-15 came along. It's actually the follower of the triple deuce. There was a 222 and then the 223. The 223 actually was for bolt action rifles, and it was actually designed for killing varmints. That's what it was designed for. And to this day, it's still pretty effective for killing varmints. I'm not a big 22 caliber rifle guy. I'm a 30 cal guy. It's just like I'm a 45 guy. I'm not a 9mm guy. But let's stay with the AR-15. It's referred to as America's rifle. And you know, when you think of a rifle in the United States of America, the AR-15 or the M4 are the ones we think about. Now, they come in 223 is a civilian version. 5.56 is the NATO nomenclature for the same, basically the same cartridge. I'm not going to get into all the technical stuff because there is a very small difference. But the AR-15 will shoot both cartridges. Now, the difference between the 223 and the 5.56 is NATO, which means that it has a higher pressure. And the reason it has a higher pressure, meaning more powder, is that it has to drive machine guns, where the 223 is a lower pressure, lower velocity. It doesn't have to create this pressure to operate the mechanisms of a machine gun. That is the basic difference between the two. Now, can you shoot a 223 in a machine gun? Yeah, you can, but it may not want to function the operation of the mechanism. Now, the other way is you can't shoot 5.56 in either gun. It's one of those things you get to shoot them in both. So I always recommend when people buy ammunition, if they can buy surplus or 5.56 ammo at the same price, if you're going to pick between the two for the same price, I take the 5.56. And the reason is you're going to get more velocity. You'll get a longer shelf life than you will with the civilian version, just because of the way they're put together. And that is the basic difference between the two. Now, understanding that the 5.56 comes in two bullet weights. One is 55 grains, and the other one is 60 or 62, depending on who you buy it from. Okay, so those now, people say, well, is that Russian stuff any good? Well, listen, for the kind of money that they get for the Russian stuff, I have no problem with it because it's about 40% less than the NATO stuff and about 20% less than the American civilian. So the Russian stuff is good. Wolf's okay. I said okay. I'm not saying it's better. So those are your choices right there.
That clears that definitely clears that up. Now, I've got a question about 1911s because I know a lot of people. We've only got a couple days left for you to get over to Turner's and get whatever's on their list that's going to fall off the California. Yeah, exactly. And so I know we're going to run out of time here, and then we'll have to carry it over, to the next segment. But sure, you can buy a gun and have it shipped to California. People do this. They buy it online, they ship it into an FFL dealer, and they go there, and all of a sudden the FFL dealer tells them, hey, by the way, the gun you purchased can't be delivered to you in California because it's not on the list, and it gets sent back. What's up with that?
That is correct. Well, here's the deal. California, and they call it ransom money. What they did is to all the manufacturers, they told them, well, if you're going to sell your gun in California, it has to meet our safety standards. And all they do is they take the pistol and they drop it from a building to see if it functions. And then, of course, all those guns that they tested, they get to keep. And, of course, all the officials get to share them with all their relatives and friends. But understanding that, if the company doesn't want to pay the ransom, besides that, giving them the guns, they have to pay, I think it's $2,000 or $3,000 per gun.
For the test.
To the state of California. Yes, for the test. And mind you, it's just a drop. Okay? And they don't drop it in the box. They take the gun out, all right? And if it doesn't pass the test, then it...
Well, most of the guns pass the test. I'd say the vast majority, 95+%. But some of them never get tested because the companies just don't want to pay the ransom, right?
That's correct. That is correct. That is why it is that way. Now, there's a couple of companies, Arms Corp, Barrett, they just don't deal with California. They just will refuse to pay ransom, and they said, we don't really care what you guys do. And that's just the way it is. Now, Ruger is a big, I think, always held blackmail and There's some other Smith & Wesson. There's quite a few companies that come over and pay it because the market right now, hey, what's a few $1,000s to pay to test a gun when you can make a small fortune on selling guns in California?
Well,
And
they're
that's really
selling
the case
record
right now.
numbers. Yeah, they're selling record numbers. They're breaking all records.
As you know, Barack Obama has now sold 3-1 over Bill Clinton.
Don't. I do not recall losing anything to Barack Obama. I did not get schlonged. But
oh, that's funny. That's funny. That's funny.
Hey,
but anyway, that's pretty much it.
Well, we know it's like with cars. There's California only versions, and they just cost more,
right.
And it's good for the environment, and it makes the air cleaner. But in reality, there's no safety whatsoever that you're paying for. I like the way you described it. It's just simply ransom. Anyway, when we come back from this next break, we're going to take more of your calls here on the Tim Donnelly Show. Stay tuned. Hey, if you are interested in freedom, can't have freedom without firearms. Just bottom line. And our founders knew that. My good friend, former Marine Sergeant Rich Cabral, whose website is shortrifles.com, who makes an incredible sniper rifle, or I don't know, it's a short combat rifle. It's an all-around incredible thing that was a creation of his own mind. What do you call it?
It's a bullpup design. It puts a magazine in the back, shortens a rifle a foot, which, by the way, you really got to go out on a limb to make it legal in California. But I sell quite a few stocks in Texas, Nevada, all the free states. They all buy it. But it's a pretty interesting concept. We're going to
you got to check it out. And by the way, if you didn't get the website, we have a link up at timdonnellyshow.com to Rich's website. You can contact him through there because, Rich, you do all kinds of stuff. I mean, you fix guns, you build guns, you help people match them up to what it is that they want. So they definitely want to be in touch with you. We're going to go to the phones real quick and field another call for you. Hey, welcome to the show. Give me your first name and city.
Andy in Tehachapi.
Hey, Andy, how are you?
I'm doing well. I've got great to talk to you, Tim and Rich. It's a great show. I have a question about registering firearms here in California. I know a number of friends that have firearms, and I asked them about registering them, if they're registered, and they normally say no. And I moved down here from Alaska a few years ago, and I have some handguns. A couple of them actually were bought here in California about 15 to 20 years ago, and a couple of them were purchased in Alaska. So how do I handle these?
Well, again, I'm not an attorney. Okay, I want to make that clear. So I'm going to give you the information that I've learned over the many years. If you originally bought it in California, you don't have a problem with those. It's not actually a problem with any handgun if you're a legal citizen and not a felon. But I recommend that you contact the Department of Justice in California. You can go to their website, and there's some links in there. It tells you, I moved into California. You know, they're not going to have free state in there, but you put from Alaska or wherever you're from. What process do I need to go through? I'm almost positive that you're going to have to register. And when I say register, that's probably the wrong word, but that's technically what you're doing, is they're assigning that serial number in California database to you. That's what they're going to do. And to some degree, it's a good thing. I recommend you have a small safe to keep this stuff locked up. I'm a big advocate for children not getting hurt by firearms because of someone's stupidity. But that's what I would recommend you do. Again, the California ones, you don't have a problem with. But if you have some out-of-state pistols, I do recommend going to the DOJ website, California website, not federal, and seeing their process, because I know there's one. If you don't break any laws, you get caught with it, they'll take it away from you. Then you got to go to court. You got to go through that whole process. And remember also when you're on the DOJ website, see how to carry a firearm in California legally. Now, if you're close to LA County, I don't recommend carrying a gun in LA County. I don't know where you're at, but you sit to Tehachapi, you don't have to worry about it. But LA County is just about as big as anti-gun, and it's bad. So that's what I would recommend you do.
Okay, Rich. Yeah, thank you very much. I'm up here we're actually in Kern County.
Oh, good. Yeah, I lived up in.
You're in America.
Tulare County. Yeah.
you're in my friend Assemblywoman Shannon Grove country. That's awesome.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, I actually keep my firearms in a safe, and
good.
My safe's about the size of a refrigerator. So, but I have maybe 6 guns right now. So, all right. Well, thank you very much, and I'm going to try to go to the event on January 16th, and probably I'd like to bring my wife along.
Yeah, if you're going to do that, make sure that you register, and there is a link up. We're also going to put a Facebook link to yesterday's show so that people can hear what that's all about and make it there, but it's just applevalleygunclub.com. Look, this is so important that you see people coming together from all walks of life to, even people who disagree on things. Rich may be in favor of registration. I think the government just wants your name and phone number so they can one day confiscate your guns. But call me paranoid. But I'm not a fan.
I'm not in favor. I am not in favor. But when you're going to give advice to somebody, I don't ever want them to say, "Well, Rich Cabral said I didn't have to." I don't want to put anybody or myself in that situation. And just a couple more things.
That's why I don't have. That's why I love you, Rich.
I don't have an FFL, so I don't sell guns. But when people want to build a rifle, I recommend the following things, and this is how you're going to do it and where you can get it done. What I manufacture is a stock for a rifle. But the information is free, so if they have a question, I'll be happy to help them with it.
And where do they reach you again? It's
shortrifles.com.
Shortrifles.com. Hey, Andy, thanks for the call, and thanks for listening up there in Tehachapi.
Alrighty, thank you.
Hey, we'll continue to take your calls for the next few minutes. 323-746-TALK. That's 323-746-8255. Let me just ask you my question, because I've been just poring over Turner's website. I mean, it's like gun porn. it's just so many. I'm sorry. I apologize to anybody. No, I can't apologize. John from North Carolina will call me up and yell at me. But look, so I was looking at all the 1911s that they have, and they've got some that say A1, and some say mil spec, and some say tactical. What's the big difference? I mean, give us a little bit of that history of the 1911 and. What do I need to know to buy one? Pick one.
We talked about this, I think, last time a little bit. But for those people that don't understand what 1911 actually means, it was the year that John Browning actually sold the gun as a pistol. And they referred to it as a 1911 A1. The A1 is still in production to this day at half of places around the world that are manufacturing it. The Philippines manufacture it. There's a couple local companies. John Browning, when he designed his gun, there's a lot of people that have their own design, Glock, Browning. There's a lot of them. But they all do the same thing his gun did originally. So the 1911 A1 has a simple front sight, and the rear sight is fixed. In other words, if you are shooting and it's shooting too far to the right, you really have to take a brass punch and a hammer and move it over a few thousandths of an inch to adjust the sight. The A2, the A3, A4, the mil spec, all of them have these little screws that go on the side of the adjustment of the rear sight so that you can adjust the windage and you can adjust the elevation. But when they say tactical, everybody's got their own idea about what tactical is. Some tactical guys will say, well, it's 3 dots, 1 dot up front, 2 dots in the back. So just imagine putting your front, if you're right-handed, you take your left finger, put it out in front of you, and you put a white dot on it. You take your 2 fingers from your right hand, put 2 dots on it, and that's what it is. Simple way of looking at it. I teach this system so people understand where to place it on the target. That's a 3 dot. Then you have trillium, so you can see them at night. Then you have lasers. I don't like lasers because they work both ways. I like dots. Treasure gun makes an excellent dot, but the dot costs more than the gun. So what you've got to figure out in your head is, what exactly am I going to do with this? I do recommend a 3 dots. Go ahead.
Well, I want to ask you a specific question because I was going through it and I was asking myself that. And I looked at the different features and I noticed that because it kind of came down to a mil-spec Springfield and then a Rock Island tactical that were in a really reasonable price range at Turner's. And the Rock Island has what it called a combat low profile sight. And I got that, meaning it isn't going to hang up in your clothes or hit something when you're pulling it out.
Correct.
And it also has a trigger. Right. So then the trigger looks like it's sort of rounded off so that it isn't, because the other one has almost like a hook. And you could see that you could easily get that caught on something.
Correct. Now, just on the word mil-spec, you got to remember Springfield has been around since before the Civil War. Okay? Now, it's really not the same company, but they claim that that's their trademark. So when they say a Springfield mil-spec, all 45s to some degree are 90% mil-spec. And the reason is because the hardening process of the molecular structure of the steel that they're made from has to be mil-spec, or it has to be hardened in order for it to have a longevity of 100 years. And that's pretty much where they're at right now. I've got one that was born in 1939, and it's still terrific gun, original barrel. It shoots terrific. It is mil-spec, but it's cold.
Wow!
So anybody can claim
that's almost as old as you.
Yeah, pretty much. Actually, I got it. It's got a few years on me, so we go well together.
Well,
no, but you're like me. I'm real partial to the 1911.
Yeah, well, and look, we joke around about it, but the bottom line is that we want people to understand we're not living in the same times. No, you and I and our community, we went to a funeral for a 37-year-old father of 6 children who was a wonderful human being who didn't deserve to be slaughtered by an Islamic jihadist. He didn't deserve to die because of the politically correct policies of the idiot in the White House. And the government isn't going to do anything about it. Not only can't they do anything about it, but they refuse to even try. So it's on us. We are now the front line. And so it's important. And you know what, Rich? I'm hoping you'll come back and join us once in a while for a little bit of gun talk, because it's always fun. You're great at answering questions. Your knowledge base, you're like an encyclopedia. I want to thank you for your time coming on today. And look, if you got questions that didn't get answered, or you're nervous, didn't want to call in, go to timdonnellyshow.com or go to shortrifles.com, whichever one you can remember. But get a hold of Rich. You can reach him through his website. He will help you to the extent that he can. And make sure you also click on the link at timdonnellyshow.com to go out, bring your firearm, bring your family, get yourself trained and familiar with the safety and the features of your particular firearm at the January 16th event at the Apple Valley Gun Club. It's critically important that you be prepared. Rich, once again, thanks for coming on, and thank you for your service to this country and to our listeners here. God bless you.
Tim, take care of yourself. Happy New Year's.
Happy New Year. Godspeed. Hey, we will be right back with more of your questions. And then we've got Michelle Moons coming up, and we're going to talk about the hypocrisy at the mosque, the terrorist mosque. Sorry, no political correctness here. Hey, welcome back to the show. Man, I love talking guns. I wish I could just do that every day, 3 hours a day. There's nothing in the world quite as fun. I guess politics is fun to some extent, especially when you have someone like Donald Trump in it. It's more like a blood sport than it is, a kabuki dance. We're used to the kabuki dance. We're bored out of our minds. And there's been a major rebellion. It is continuing to brew. And, of course, Donald Trump is at the forefront of that. And, I got to say, it's exciting. We talk a lot about how here we are in California. We're behind enemy lines. We are in the People's Republic of California with all these socialist policies. But here's the thing. Go to Turners.com, look at it. There's a lot of guns you can buy. And I'm not advocating that we ever stop and ever back down from pushing harder and harder and harder to restore our Second Amendment right to its initial absolute right, the fundamental natural right that it is to defend your life and your freedom from tyranny. Because, see, that's a threat to the government. And right now, the government is a threat to your rights. It's a threat to you. It's a threat to your freedom. It's a threat to your future. You get that. You don't need me to tell you that. But part of the reason you might hear me push a company once in a while, and yeah, I'm grateful. Turner's has been a supporter of this show, but that's not why I've been pushing them. I'm pushing them because they're good. I'm pushing them because they have 18 locations in Southern California, including one in Victorville. Easy to find. The people are friendly, but there's something more. They stand with us. They don't just go out there and sell guns and ammo and fun accessories and all that. They want to be in the fight, in the trenches, defending the Second Amendment with us, and they do it every day. They support community events like the January 16th Apple Valley Gun Club event, where you can go out for $25. Think about this. $25. You can have a full hour of training on your firearm, personalized training from an NRA certified instructor. Where in the world can you get that? Turner's is sponsoring that, helping make that happen. There's a couple other sponsors on there. You can find the link at timdonnellyshow.com. We're going to put up the event either later today or tomorrow, the interview that we did with John Marhofer from the Apple Valley Gun Club, because it's important. We want you to engage. I'm going to come. I'm going. I'm not sure if my wife is going to be able to make it, but at least one of my boys, hopefully both, will be able to, because this is so important. This is the engagement of our time, is to be prepared. We're not looking for a fight. We're not looking to harm or ever. We are looking to defend and protect our natural rights and the rights of our colleagues, of our friends, of our family. We have a natural, inalienable right to life that God gave us. That is a gift from God, not the government. And the government can't do a damn thing to help you anymore. And you know it. Damn, why do you have to cut me off right when I'm just getting going? You know what? You're going to have to tune in, because we got Michelle Moons coming up talking about the terrorist mosque right after this break. Well, if you're talking about political correctness, obviously it's been going on far too long. It cost 14 innocent Americans, some of whom were friends and neighbors of many of you, as well as myself. And before I bring our next guest on, I want to say something. Yeah, surprise, surprise. You talk for 3 hours a day and you want to say something. I want to say thank you to Michelle Moons, who is our next guest. She's a Breitbart columnist, but she's way more than that. She's a patriot. She has gone in there. She's gone into the belly of the beast. She has gone into this terrorist mosque. I don't know what else to call it. I'm not going to give you the long, drawn-out Islamic name because I just don't give a crap. Yeah, I came really close to saying the F word there, but I took a detour. Yeah, I know my producer / engineer is going to be happy about that. But look, our community is deeply grateful because this isn't something that just happened. This is something that has turned our lives, turned our communities upside down. It has ended the innocence that we once enjoyed. We are not Los Angeles. We're not New York. We're not some big city. This is a small community that has been devastated. And Michelle Moons, I want to thank you for your work and your dedication to getting to the bottom and not just accepting these pat answers from anyone on this matter. Michelle?
Yes. Hi, Tim. Glad to be on. Thank you so much. You're just really appreciate the work that you do as well. Yeah, right after the terror attack in San Bernardino, I went to this mosque. It was 2 days after. It was a Friday, so they had their regular Friday service at the mosque, and I was there with our Breitbart London editor-in-chief, Raheem Kassam, who is very well versed in the different sects that there are. So he was able to offer insight and help me understand as well what the sect that this particular mosque is. It's the Dar al-Ulum al-Islamiyya mosque in
we just call it the terrorist mosque for short.
Right, but I think it's important to understand what sects these are and what it means. So this particular sect is Tablighi Jamaat. What's interesting to note is that government officials have said they think there's about 50,000 members of this particular sect in the U.S.
And say the name again.
Tablighi Jamaat.
Tablighi Jamaat.
And if you go
and what is the shorthand name for them? Because it was in your article you had something else about darkness.
Right. So there's a connection to Raheem Kassam has done a full-on piece about how in Britain and in some circles they're called the Army of Darkness. It's a fundamentalist sect of Islam that is known to be a sect that Al-Qaeda recruits out of. And so we've got, according to government officials, and who knows if I'm guessing they're not overestimating numbers, so I would say there's likely at least 50,000 members of this sect of Islam in the U.S. This is the mosque that Syed Farouk, one of the terror attackers from San Bernardino, went to. And what's interesting, and you hear this again and again, is you'll hear after different terror attacks, Islamic terror attacks, you'll hear family and friends say, oh, that's not the person I knew, they were peaceful, or, oh, I didn't know them very well, and distance themselves. All these things that try to downplay it. And when we went into this mosque on December 4th, after their services, and a group of journalists got walked down by a police officer to this mosque, and we went inside. One of the individuals in the mosque that said, oh, he casually knew Syed Farouk, not that well, and that he had stopped coming to the mosque a couple months before. At one point, he had said a year before. It's trying to downplay his involvement there. Well, this is definitely the type of mosque that is the more fundamentalist, more extreme than some others. And to give you some perspective on that, a few days later, there was Enrique Marquez had been converted to Islam by Syed Farouk. It was his neighbor. This is the individual that provided 2 of the weapons used in the San Bernardino attacks, who is now being indicted for his part in planning attacks with Farouk in I believe it was 2012. And so we're talking about someone that went to this other mosque that is known to be basically, we've deduced that they appear to be associated to the Corona Norco Mosque. They're basically associated with Muslim Brotherhood types, right? So Raheem had gone and spoken to the imam when we were at what they called a vigil, which was just a PR campaign, basically. And what the imam at the Muslim Brotherhood type associated mosque told him was, oh yeah, those people over at the Dar al-Ulum, those Tablighi Jamaat, they're crazy. Basically, I mean that's short
really
for what he actually said. Yes. So that gives you a little perspective. You've got one sect saying this other one, oh, they're
So you've got the Muslim Brotherhood connected mosque, who is afraid of and looks down on the crazy fundamentalists at the Dar al-Ulum Islamia one, which is the Tajik
Tablighi Jamaat. Mm-hmm.
Okay, I can't even say these words.
Right,
okay,
yeah,
but basically,
if people want to know the actual spelling and all that, go to Breitbart for the article and that talks about what's happening here. But we've talked about that before, right? So moving the story forward, what has happened now is he's saying we have I barely knew Syed and he wasn't very well known at the mosque. Anyone can come in, all this. Well, now the FBI is saying, oh, by the way, we've uncovered all these phone messages between this. His name is Roshan Abbasi. He spoke at this press conference, and he didn't want to comment on whether they were the FBI was asking about other investigating people in the mosque.
We rolled yesterday the clip of the no comment. We called a press conference to comment on nothing.
Increasingly agitated.
Yes.
Yep. Exactly. Trying to distance themselves and say, oh, no, he wasn't that involved here. Well, now they've found a number of phone messages, but in particular,
38.
What they've zeroed in on is, well, it sounds like they have more than that, but one of the zeroed in periods they have is 38 messages in a 2-week period in June, which happened to coincide with jihadist attacks on 2 military sites in Chattanooga. Which is something that apparently the FBI thinks is important to mention.
Wow.
Or the New York Post originally had brought this forth, and so you're looking at, okay, so we're coinciding this with the Chattanooga attack. Meanwhile, you go back to this Roshan Abbasi, who was saying no comment at the press conference.
And Roshan Abbasi is like one of the imams at this San Bernardino mosque.
He calls himself a teacher. Right. They're going to kind of downplay their part in pretty much anything at this point.
Okay.
But so what we're looking at is he's trying to say, oh, no, we were just talking about food donations. 38 messages in 2 weeks over food donations to bring to the mosque. Really?
Yeah, I don't think so.
That's what you're going to say when it coincided with terror attacks? And you've got the fact that they're a Tablighi Jamaat, very fundamentalist sect of Islam. I don't think so. So you see where you have reports going out, and this is something I noticed early on with the FBI, the ATF, all of them kept saying that Enrique Marquez, oh no, he's not a suspect. Oh no, he's not a suspect. Even before they released his name, the person, we know that somebody provided 2 of the weapons for this attack. We're not giving their name yet, but he's not considered a suspect. And I was like, why are you so intent on telling us he's not a suspect? And then it comes out, oh, by the way, yeah, he is. And now he's being indicted for conspiring in 2012 to commit terror attacks with Syed Farouk. And he provided 2 of the weapons for this terror attack.
Well, yeah, I mean,
downplaying again and again, whether it's media or government officials.
Well, and it's ridiculous because if they wanted to tell the truth about gun control, because they're trying to take away our right to buy guns, they're looking to push more and more and more gun control, background checks, this, that, and the other thing. And the bottom line is, it wasn't a gun show loophole. It was a next door neighbor who got converted to become an Islamic jihadist, who was in the bar he worked in, bragging about how they were going to blow people up and kill them. And by the way, he was able to fully legally buy 2 ARs and deliver them to his neighbor for the murders. So, no more gun control is going to stop that. There's nothing that's going to stop that.
Well, and then you look at earlier this month, and this was the London portion of our site also reported this, is that there was a family who got stopped in Britain that said they were trying to come to the U.S. to go to Disneyland. They got stopped. It turned into this whole to-do about, they're being profiled, just because it's Islamophobia against these people that are trying to come. Turns out now that there is an association between those people, that family, and a relative that is a car shop, owns a car shop or manages a car shop in San Bernardino, and happens to go to this Dar al-Ulum Islamia mosque. Big surprise.
Wow.
Hey, I wonder why they stopped them in the UK.
Wow. Let's take a quick break.
Before it was known what was going on.
Let's take a quick break and come back, Michelle, and finish this connection, because this is important stuff. We're talking to Michelle Moons, Breitbart.com columnist and investigative journalist. Stay tuned. Hey, if you're like many of us here in the greater San Bernardino area, San Bernardino County, you know somebody who was either a victim or the family of a victim or the friend of a victim, and everything's changed. You don't take what the government says for granted, and as a matter of fact, you shouldn't, because a lot of it turns out to be absolute hogwash, made-up propaganda, and just politically correct crap. Well, I guess I should have said PC propaganda. That would have been better with the alliteration. But before I bring Michelle Moons back on, who has been an investigative journalist for Breitbart.com, she and her colleague Rahim Hassan were among those who went into the terrorist mosque, the Dar al-Ulum Islami mosque, that is home of a sect of Islam that even the Muslim Brotherhood mosques are concerned about. I just happen to have here on my desk at the Radio Free California Network studios the card from the memorial service of Michael Wetzel. It's got a picture of Michael. It says, in remembrance of Michael Wetzel. It's got a great picture of him. He's got a great smile. And then underneath it, it says, let light shine out of darkness. 2 Corinthians 4:6. How fitting that his epitaph would be to let light shine, in such a stark contrast, Michelle, to this heart of darkness sect, this army of darkness that has come into our midst, that everybody tells us is just perpetuators of the religion of peace.
Yeah, so I'd like to, again, talk about this Tablighi Jamaat sect. Not the only sect that I'd say you have to look at for jihadists coming out of, but it is one that we should be aware of. So you have, and this is a story that's been out there for a little bit now, your listeners may have already heard about it, but U.S. Department of Homeland Security whistleblower, his name is Philip Haney, he talked about, and he did this on our Breitbart Daily radio show as well, that there was an investigation into individuals who were part of this Tablighi Jamaat sect. But under the Obama administration, they stopped these investigations into these individuals. Haney was quoted in the piece that we have up saying civil rights and civil liberties shut the case down because we were focusing on individuals who belong to Tablighi Jamaat, and that the case actually took 6 years to develop. It started in 2006 and gradually gained momentum over time. So, and then he goes on to say by 2008, I was interviewing 20, 30 people a month sometimes regarding this Tablighi Jamaat sect. But under the Obama administration, it got shut down. So
because of the civil rights division of the Department of Homeland Security, they shut it down because it was Islamic. They said you're targeting Islamic groups
because they were
you're
targeting
profiling
a particular, sure. And so this Filipini came out to say, look, we were looking into these people. There's a chance. I mean, around that time, a few years later, we're looking at an indictment against Marquez for conspiring with Farouk for a terror attack back then. They were looking at blowing up cafeterias, how to do the most damage, stopping freeway traffic, and throwing explosive devices on the freeway.
They wanted to go into the UCR, the University of California Riverside cafeteria, and blow it up and kill as many students as they could. Then they were going to go out onto the 91 freeway, throw out these pipe bombs, which evidently they don't know how to build pipe bombs because they didn't go on the right site on the internet. And once they stopped enough traffic by blowing people up in their cars, you were going to have this Syed Farouk walk down Quentin Tarantino style and start blowing people away and just splattering blood everywhere and killing as many people as he could. And Marquez was supposed to sit there with a sniper rifle and pick off the first responders who are coming to save people's lives.
It's pretty insidious. And look at this.
The Obama administration,
Homeland Security, it could have been stopped.
Yeah, they didn't want it. They didn't want to stop that.
Yep. They shut down the investigation into this particular sect. Now, not that they shouldn't be investigating others or what have you, but if this is one report, how many other times have investigations been shut down where terror attacks could have been prevented? Possibly could have been prevented.
Well, and didn't Haney say it's a career-ending offense to basically call somebody out as an Islamic jihadist?
Well, what he was talking about is that they stopped allowing these people in DHS to do their jobs. So he's saying exactly what DHS was created to do, what they took their oath of office to do is what he was said. What they're well trained to do, they were then told they can't do. I mean, that is not what's the point of having them there if you're not going to let them do their job, what they're trained to do.
And so Americans died because the politicians that run these organizations, the politically correct culture and times in which we live that are perpetuated, the policies come down from on high, from Obama and his appointments to, Jay Johnson and everyone else. These guys have blood on their hands. And you know what? If you work for Department of Homeland Security and you didn't call this out and you didn't bring it to the public's attention, then you need to search your soul as well. And you need to say, hey, why didn't I do that? So what if you lose your job? People lost their lives. Anyway, I'm sorry. I don't mean to get so worked up.
We're talking about a sect in particular that is known for Al-Qaeda recruiting out of their sect. That you've got FBI Director Heimbach saying we have a significant presence of them in the United States.
There is no excuse.
Where do we go from here?
There's no excuse. Well, we're going to have you back, Michelle. Yeah. Thank you for your incredible work. Great. Michelle Moons, Breitbart.com. Check out her work. She's fighting for us. We'll be right back. It's no surprise, if you've been paying attention, that our government has become the greatest threat to our freedom. The greatest threat. I believe, and I don't say this lightly, but I believe that not one single one of those 14 would have perished on that December 2nd at that Christmas party if we had a government that was headed up by an American, not whatever the hell Barack Obama is, traitor, idiot, betrayer. I don't know what to call him. I don't have evidence that he's a Muslim, but his actions all indicate that his allegiance is with Islam and not with America. He sure as hell didn't want to come here. He didn't want to be seen publicly. I'll go privately meet with the families. And then whine and cry about how out of touch he is. And then the next day, we bury people. The next day, we're having memorial services in the fog. The next day, we're looking at and witnessing the families trying to cope with the unthinkable, with the unspeakable tragedy of losing a loved one in the prime of their life, and to have no explanation for why it happened, except that we have a government that is filled with pansies that refuse to stand up. Period. If you work for the government and they're doing the wrong thing and you don't talk about it and you don't tell it, then you're violating your oath to the people, to the Constitution, to stand up for the rule of law, to protect and defend the Constitution. That is what your oath is. Not to protect and defend your ass, not to protect and defend your pension, not to protect and defend your life and your livelihood. You swore an oath. You know what? There are too many people, too few people of courage. There's a few. There's definitely a lot of good people. But it takes a tremendous amount of courage to stand up against the machine and tell the truth, especially when you get called names like Islamophobic. And if you're in government and you're not being called Islamophobe or Islamophobic, you might as well just hang up your hat, because you are not a threat to the fundamentalist Islamics, the fundamentalist Muslims that have come here to kill people. You're not a threat to them. They're a threat to us, but you're not a threat to them. But you know what? Most of the people listening to the show and most of the people within the sound of my voice have given up on government. They don't believe you can defend us. They don't even understand why we spend all this money on Homeland Security. Department of Homeland Security, what a joke. We got the freaking TSA. That's a branch of it. We've got your San Fernando Valley spying operation. Well, you didn't find these guys. You didn't root them out. It was the New York Post and Breitbart.com and Michelle Moons. They're the ones who are out there telling the truth about it. Is the FBI after the fact, as Rich Cabral said earlier, they come to clean up. Nothing against the FBI. That's the thing. We don't empower you to go stop crimes before they happen. We don't want the thought police. But we seem to have it with Barack Obama and Loretta Lynch, who want to punish and penalize the First and Second Amendment. You know what? F them. And F this government. And I'm sorry if that offends anybody. I'm sorry if that's not in the Christmas spirit. I just looking at this picture of Michael Wetzel and revisiting this mosque where all they could say is, oh, we don't have any comment, and then get agitated and outraged. And the media and even the police were there to investigate some threats that they had gotten. You know what? When are they ever going to be on our side? When is it that the people whose salaries we pay, the government that we finance, the government that we empower, we lend them power, when are they going to work for us and defend us and take our side? And F this mosque filled with a bunch of fundamentalist jihadists who basically shield. Maybe not all of them are killers, but all of them know the killer. All of them know who the killers are within their midst. They do. They're not going to tell anybody. They're going to quietly play dumb until another attack takes place. Well, I got news for you, Dar Alam Islami. We ain't going to be unprepared this time, because there are so many Americans. See, we don't screw around here. When we go buy guns, we are looking for the maximum firepower to neutralize the threat. And if you decide to rear your ugly head and point a weapon at me or my friends or any people like me, like the people that are going to be going to this event on January 16th to learn how to handle a firearm for perhaps the first time in their lives, by the way, TimDonnellyShow.com, go on there and click. It's an Apple Valley Gun Club event sponsored in part by Turner's, headed up by John Marhofer, who came on the show the other day. We're gonna put that out on the Facebook. A lot of those people never owned a gun. Will you come into their workplace? I don't know if they're going to get a CCW, but I know they're going to be prepared. I hope they don't wait around to get a CCW. I hope that they simply learn how to proficiently use that gun, become comfortable, and change their mindset. And as John Marhofer said, he said it very well, go from being somebody who can operate a firearm proficiently to becoming a shooter. Because we need to take the mentality of being a shooter. It's that simple. And I don't mean that we go out on the offensive, because we never do. We're Americans. But you threaten us. You point a weapon at us. You walk in and hold some kind of a timer like you're going to blow up one of these suicide vests or something. I'm your Huckleberry. I'll help you. I'll put a 45 between your eyes before you can hopefully set off that bomb. You want to come in all black and body armor and all kinds of crap? I can hit your head. I might, you know what? If I'm having a bad day, I might hit you in the eye socket. Don't worry, I'll get a second round off. I'm not afraid. We are not living in fear. We're Americans. We are preparing for the worst. We're preparing for this evil to happen again. We shouldn't have to. It was our government's job to protect us, to secure our borders, to not give open immigration to people who clearly are a threat. I'm not talking about their religion. I'm talking about their ideology. I'm talking about the hatred and the evil and the darkness in their hearts. And there's no laws that can ferret out that evil, but every one of us can put it to sleep by simply being prepared and rising to the moment and putting a 45 hollow point into that evil so that it doesn't harm another human being who is innocent. It's called protecting innocent life. And see, when it comes to that, there is no one better on the face of the earth than Americans. God bless us. God bless this great country of ours. We have gone so many times to so many foreign shores to fight different brands and flavors of evil and defend freedom and be that beacon and that light on a hill. And in this hour of darkness, we are not going to shrink. We're not going to wait for someone to come save us. We know government can't help, and they won't. It's not like the revolution when France came in and helped us in the 11th hour. God bless and God save the French. We're on our own. That's okay. Because we are more than capable of rising to this task. Because, see, it starts with something deep in our heart, in our spirit as Americans. There's just a goodness. And some would attribute it to God. Some would attribute it to freedom. Some would attribute it. I don't care what you attribute it to. It's there. It's not in every American, but it's in a lot of us. Some people just choose to believe the lies that are spread by the education indoctrination centers known as our schools. Believe that America is an evil country. We're not. We're a great country. We're filled with great people. And the next jihadist that comes after an American on American soil is going to find out firsthand. And it's going to be another rallying cry in this post-San Bernardino world that we now inhabit. You know what? I am optimistic because I believe in you, and I know that you are not only going to inform yourself, educate yourself on the nature of this evil, but you're going to engage it when it really matters because you're an American and you can do no less. I'm going to take a break, come back with the final segment here. The Tim Donnelly Show.
Baptisms of fire.
That's right, we are rocking here in the USA. This is the Radio Free California Network. I am your host, former California State Assemblyman and radio governor here in the state of California and elsewhere. I could be your governor there in North Carolina or Utah or Iowa or wherever you hail from. Let's see, did I miss one? North Dakota. Where we've gotten calls from Kansas. And you know what? Deep down inside, we're all the same. Doesn't matter if you come from a small town or a big town. You want to be safe in your community. You want to be safe when you go to work. You want your kids to grow up better than you did. You want them to have a better education, a better life, an easier life. You sacrifice. And there's no room, there's no place in that plan to have your life snuffed out by somebody who shouldn't even be in this country. And I'm not even talking about illegal aliens. I'm talking about allowing millions, at least hundreds of thousands of unvetted Muslims to come into this country after we have been struck time and time and time again. And because of the policies that are in place, there's no chance that they'll accurately vet the Syrian refugees or the 300,000 Muslim immigrants that your Congress, thanks a lot, Paul Cook, thanks a lot, Congressman, tons of them from California voted for it. I mean, tons of Republicans voted for this. It's ludicrous. It's ridiculous to just give Obama everything he wants. Don't even stand up for anybody. This massive, monolithic budget, and I know other talk show hosts have gone on and on about it. My focus is very simple. My focus is on the life and death issues. And when you're funding the immigration and the visas and given $1.6 billion for illegal aliens to be resettled, and we don't even take care of our veterans, and we have Department of Homeland Security that won't even do its job. What's the point of going and waging a war abroad if you aren't going to secure the homeland? Meaning, why is DHS at the airports frisking Americans? You should be profiling the way they do in Israel. Protect the civil liberties of us and send the rest of your posse down to the border. And why don't you secure that? Why don't you start building a secure and intelligent physical barrier to drive traffic to choke points? Note, I didn't say build a fence and build a wall because, of course, you can get around or over a wall. It's not the issue. It's about having a strategy of actually stopping the traffic, and the physical barrier and the intelligent use of that is a good idea because you can actually secure the border with less agents and therefore save money. But you also have to do workplace enforcement. You also have to do all these other types of enforcement. You actually have to develop the political will to stand up for American sovereignty. And I'm sorry, but there isn't a single candidate anywhere on the horizon who has articulated those particular ideas except Donald Trump. And for that, he is roundly demonized, roundly criticized. He has called every name in the book. And I don't know. I just think in this day and age, in this environment, not even the GOP establishment, as evil and as deep in the heart of darkness as they are, I don't even think they can take him out. And that would be a victory for the American people. To finally have someone who would just tell us the truth and then do whatever he can about it with our help. See, Reagan's greatness was he enlisted the American people in the fight. He didn't just enlist the politicians. He told the politicians what he was going to do, but he got the American people to kick their ass to make sure that they would help him do it. And I'm hoping that's the kind of man that Donald Trump will be if we're able to get him into the White House. And once again, I'm not endorsing anyone, but he's the only guy that makes any sense. Anyway, we'll be back tomorrow. Don't miss it. Thanks to Chief Engineer Sean McNeil, all of our sponsors, Turners, and you. God bless you and Godspeed. Tim Donnelly Show, out.